So, you know, our place has like stairs.
Oh, everywhere. So weird.
I live here, I just never did
It was a month ago, 20 years ago, that NATRA sponsored the first Pictured Canyon Make a Difference Day, and we had 72 volunteers that came out, started cleaning up this canyon. David McKee, who ran with us for many years and still does a lot of the solstice artwork, he worked for the city, and he made a whole bunch of partnerships that was just, people said you couldn't do it, and he did it. And he got these 6 cars hauled out of the bottom of the canyon with one of the crane companies in town, Lively Crane. And that, there had been other efforts in the past, but that was the one that really got things going forward. This used to be state trust land, and it was at risk of being developed, and eventually this working group came together, and it involved 6 or 7, maybe 10 partners, and it was just incredible. And then the city purchased it for almost the 400 something acres for I think it was $4 million. There had been a bond to set aside open space, and now it's this unbelievable park, just like Buffalo Park, a citizens initiative that helped propel a lot of this. So you know, you'll get a kick out of seeing this if you've never been there. We'll look at the petroglyphs and have a really good time. It's about 6 miles round trip, but you can do it as an out and back. I'm Neil.
I'm Bill. Brian.
Jeff.
Carla and Wally.
Alex.
Liz,
Mimi.
Mark.
Deborah,
Brian.
Troy.
Selena.
Dulcie,
Dale.
Alexis.
Coco, Riley, Bruce.
Yen?
Kevin.
Bonnie, Irma, Kat.
Ron.
And that's Pup and Jeremiah.
All right.
I want you
I think I know. Okay. You guys are going to alternate.
Oh no!
Yeah, that was
Probably like back on 4 miles up there. Maybe see that back on the mountain. So many people. Yes, he tagged me on it. Have to downhill. Sweet.
Are we doing clockwise or counterclockwise today?
Good question.
I don't know.
So there used to be in the 70s when the reclaimed water was really, it smelled like a sewer in here when I was told, and people were dumping trash. But this neighborhood wanted a ditch to move the water faster through this canyon. So there was this ditch that was cut all the way straight through the canyon up to the treatment plant, and it was a straight shot. And if any of you know what happens when humans try to intervene, that brought in an unbelievable amount of invasive weeds, because the water was no longer doing its meandering and the flows through here like it did for generations. And this is basically the lower end of the Rio de Flag, and there was a big meander that's now been restored that comes around, and this has all been restored and filled in, and you'll see the big oxbow bend that sweeps around and then comes back in right by the petroglyphs.
So Neil, when the Rio floods in town, does this also flood, or does it slow down by here?
Well, it gets caught up in, I think it does once everything gets saturated.
Yeah.
And it flows like crazy through here. but it's also got to get through the bottomless pits.
Yeah.
That's real to flag, and so it's got to be a pretty major year for precipitation to have it flowing, but that's what happened 2 years ago. So yeah, you can wander around and look at the interpretive panels. This was all done in partnership with the many tribes that have interest in the area and ancestral ties, the Hopi, Navajo. You know, this was basically Route 66 prehistorically, people following the water, but it was really after the eruption of Sunset Crater around 1080 AD that the different groups were really passing through Flagstaff and coming up through Picture Canyon. So most of these, like the ones up top, usually it's difficult to say how you date these petroglyphs, but the zigzag is really indicative of patterns that are on the pottery after 1100 AD. But after the eruption, a lot of the people from our area and around the Williams area moved to the closer to the Sunset Crater because of the eruption. And you're looking at the cinders from Sunset Crater from that eruption on the ground here, and they created a mulch, and it made it more suitable to farming and extended the growing season. So we started to see the rise of Eldon Pueblo and a lot of the big pueblos around that time. And Wapaki, for those that have been out there, that big national monument, there was nothing out there until after the eruption of Sunset Crater. So you can see there's a hunter, you can see a bow and arrow, a guy with two antennae.
Which one?
Up under the rock shelter, up high. And there's lots of lizard-like figures out here, and of course there's lizards. You know what they mean, that's pretty much the big question. We don't know, but what's really cool, if you're ever going up to Tuba City, towards Tuba City on Highway 89, there's a site it's on Navajo land, but it's a Hopi site right below the village of Moenkopi, or Moenavi, and it's called Shrine of the Clan Rocks. In the early 1900s, there's an anthropologist documenting the Hopi use of that site. It's called Willow Spring, and it was a stop on the salt trail from Hopi down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. It was a big migration, and the Hopis would camp there because there was water, and they would leave their clan symbols. So you can interpret these as clan symbols. You can also just interpret it, the people were telling stories on the rocks. And you know, I think there's a classic petroglyph further up the canyon where there's a hunter aiming and there's two deer behind him. Cool. So it's kind of a joke, you know, like one of those humor. Telling the funny story. And, you know, it's just a really cool place. But when I first came here, I was the teacher for the Eldon Pueblo camp at Museum of Northern Arizona, and we would excavate at Eldon Pueblo in the morning, and then I'd lead field trips. And when I was working at the museum, I found out about Picture Canyon, and I started asking some questions. And Don Weaver was my boss at the time, and we're going to run on some of the Don Weaver Trail, but Don Weaver was working on documenting all the petroglyphs in Picture Canyon. And so he said, oh, you should take them to Picture Canyon. And so we drew these petroglyphs in 1986, made sketch maps of them. And, you know, the cool thing is, because it's now in the park, or in the
open space.
City park, it's protected. And it's now being used heavily. I think I asked the city, I think that it was 20 to 30,000 people a year are using Picture Canyon. Yeah, and it just keeps going. So one of the challenges is keeping people from putting graffiti on the rocks, and there's examples of that. But it's been reduced now that there's so much use here. Oh, yeah, graffiti space. With the yeah.
Education, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that, basically. And so we do ask people not to touch the petroglyphs because the oils on your fingers can damage them. But really amazing to think that these have been here for over 1,000 years. And what's really cool is when I was a student 40 years ago and we were excavating a site out by Winona, you see the zigzag pattern?
Yeah, the block.
There was, the interlocking zigzags. We uncovered a burial that had a juniper armband bracelet that exact design, and it was painted blue. It had preserved
Wow.
all those years. And it was a big deal. Channel 2, when we had a TV station, came out and reported on it. But I've been leading fourth grade trips for Willow Bend here for years and years and years. And the last time I did it, you know, we're talking about the petroglyphs. And I said, well, what do you think that means? The one with the dot in the middle of it. It looks like a sun. You know, who knows what it means? Could be a star in the sky. And one of the kids, we were fresh off of the pandemic.
Oh no.
And one of the kids goes, they discovered COVID first. And I was just laughing my ass off. I thought that was the funniest.
It's pretty impressive that he know what a virus looks like.
Right. I think everybody knew what that virus looked like.
Many people live
But
in
you can see
Flagstaff, they
the-
don't know this.
You know, you can see the water bird that looks like a blue heron.
Yeah.
And what do we have in the blue? Now, I always see the blue herons right on the where the meander was restored. So that it's been tremendous, because this used to be filled with tamarask and the thistle, the non-native thistle. There have been so many community cleanups here in the last 20 years. It's made a huge difference.
They probably built them together somehow.
He was a bit, but
Wow.
yeah.
Everybody was
He was one of the champions of making sure Picture Canyon got into the city. And I don't know if Bill, were you there when we were out in 20? I was 2012, so you probably wouldn't have been there. There was an auction. State land held an auction at City Hall, and nobody knew what was going to happen, because state legislature had just tried to steal all the money for this, the matching funds. They wanted to sweep it, but we were able to, the groups were able to stop them from doing that. And then when it went to auction, we had the $4 million, but we didn't know that was going to be enough. But this is pretty hard land to try to develop, so luckily nobody else bid on it. And going once, going twice, and then it was city land. And, there's been so much work done here. It's just phenomenal.
The best use I'd ever heard was they were going to try and make beer with this water.
No, that's right. So that's another good point. This water, my understanding is this water was cleaner. Experts tell me this water is cleaner than the city of San Diego water. This is like A++ or something like that.
saying much.
Yeah. So at any rate, there was that movement to make some beer out of it.
They put this water in drinking water now, places.
They do.
Yeah.
Fresh from the spring.
Yeah.
Sell it to the tourists.
Nice. Yeah. You got it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is that a snake?
Who knows? It could be a snake. It could be an image of the rope.
Right.
Swing across.
But this is where a number of the vehicles had been dumped.
What?
And we had a crane that David got a wetsuit on and went down into the bottom of the canyon, hooked up the crane, and we were able to pull that thing out. The body was rolling. And I had volunteered to be the archaeologist to make sure there was actually a petroglyph. We had a crane right over one of the petroglyphs. And so we were able to protect that while they did their work. But one of the funny things we tell the kids is the best time to see the waterfall is right about 10 o'clock in the morning. Why? It takes about 3 hours for most of the shower water and everybody going to the bathroom in town. When they're doing their business first thing in the morning, the flows kick up.
So
They
don't
have-
do a cannonball.
Yeah. Oaks, you got yuccas, you got barberry, you've got all these plants that the Native Americans lived off of and would harvest at different times of the year. Canyon, this is all canyon grape right here. There used to be, over by the Flagstaff Mall, there was a mill, a sawmill in the early 1900s. And this whole area, so there's branches of logging railroads that weave out this way, out towards Sunset Crater. And you can see the remnants here, the giant remnants of the trestle that it somehow crossed over and then went down the side of the canyon. So the trail below us as we were coming up the hill, that's the old railroad grade that went out towards Sunset Crater. And this was the crossing to get the trains up over to the other side of the canyon. And you can see, I mean, what's really neat when you're coming through Picture Canyon, you can see the remnants of the old stumps that were cut in 1910. When there were big trees and more open, the forest was far more open. Most of the trees that you look at today, those were trees that came in 1919 and 1920. And so that's why we have this dense forest today. There was a climatic, 2 very wet years, and then on top of that, overgrazing, and then we were suppressing all fires. And so the forest is at 60 to 80 times more dense than it was. There were 10 trees per acre when the initial surveys were done. Now it's 600 to 800 trees per acre. Wow. Which is why we have such a devastated, our fires are so hot and devastating now. So you can see NATRA got a nice little shout out there. Oh, yeah. But these are really fading quick. They need to upgrade these. But this is the big discussion here, is the two different, you know, here's the ditch from the 70s that did the straight shot. And then on the right, they've done the meandering and restored the whole channel. And so the water moves more slowly, it percolates into the ground. And then you've got this great wetland pond where people seem to think it's okay to put their turtles. So there's like some monster turtles in there growing with 3 eyes, and so he'd tell the kids, don't flush your toys down the toilet because we have to. They jam them up, and he pulls them out of his pocket and then goes starts passing them around. You know? There was a Smurf. There was a blue Smurf.
Oh, Smurf, of course.
Nobody would touch. And I'm like, I'm like, David, you sterilized that, right? Yeah. No, why would I do that? But yeah, so this is. It's pretty neat though, but the burner there, this is where all the grease in town gets taken.
Wow.
So the French fry, you know, so David will say, who likes French fries? Everybody likes French fries. He said, well, if you went into the vat where all this grease, you would never eat it.
I want a picture.
I can see the smoke. I mean, the air. The air.
Oh yeah, it's coming off. Yeah.
So that's burning off all the grease.
Wow. Oh, I see it. Oh my God. Kind of surprised.
I ran through the icy water under the Tuesday Thursday, and it was awesome.
My favorite petroglyph is actually right below us.
Where's the human?
You can see,
Right there.
you can see the
Sparrow.
the grid. It's almost like a blanket. It looks like a blanket design, and they were weaving cotton for
Oh, right there.
a number there.
Yeah. Right there. Don't move.
I think the rock moves.
No. Just stay there. Don't go anywhere. So they cannot take a picture. Do you need to rescue you? You want to go that way or this way? can push you. Action. Oh, where do people go?
In the early 2000s, by what we refer to as pot hunters, digging to find burials and pots, and the pot hunters, you know, cleaned this out. But this is very similar to the room that I excavated in 1985, about 10 miles away. And one of the things, we dug this place, we called it Lizard Man Village because of the petroglyphs that were there. But people always ask me, what was the coolest thing that you've ever found? It was still that first summer when we were excavating and we finally got to the floor of the pit house, and I'm scraping away and I hit this very bright orange rock, and it turned out it was a slab-lined sandstone fire pit, and it was filled with the ash from the last fire around 1050 AD, before the eruption of Sunset Crater. And we ended up doing what's called archaeomagnetic dating. So it's really, the science behind it's amazing. Usually you hope to find like tree trunks from the burned tree trunks that you can do tree ring dating on, but we didn't have any of that. And we knew the site dated to about 1000 or 1100, but the archaeomagnetic dating, I guess the iron particles in the clay surrounding the fire pit, they align to the magnetic north at the time. So there's a scale showing the different magnetic norths over time, and if you can do all these calculations like my professor did, it can get you within plus or minus 40 years of when the those atoms were aligned.
Wow.
So, you know, amazing science behind it, but seeing the ash from the last fire 1,000 years earlier, which also gave us the idea that they were living out here during the winter. And what are the advantages of living in the mountains in the winter? It puts you closer to the water and the snow.
Right.
So I think these folks were really great at harvesting snow. Everybody says, where'd they get the water? Where'd they get the water? It was wetter back then, but they were probably still conserving water as much as they could. So they had pots. Now what's interesting is seeing all the chips that have been put down recently, because normally I could bend down and pick up a bunch of pots and show you the pottery, because there's thousands. And what's amazing is you see this one little pit house here. This whole hillside is untouched. There's multiple houses, and you can see the rock walls, the top of the rock walls along the edge of the cliff there. So all this hillside right here, and as we go up, I'll show you a big depression. That's another big pit house. That's right off the left of the trail. So at any rate, it's a bummer that they dug this out, but it also gives some good interpretation so that the public can learn what not to do